Today I want to talk to you a little bit about work, life, and try balance. Work, life, try balance. There's been a lot of discussion lately about how do single parents and married couples balance home, work, life, and trying so that it doesn't interrupt the workflow of home and it doesn't break up relationships and marriages. So today I want to give you a few tips that have worked, not just for me, but also others that I race with. One, for sure, and it all boils down into time management. The key about time management, first and foremost, is scheduling. Developing a schedule that works for your household. Scheduling is just like dieting. Everyone's diet is going to be a little different. So what works necessarily for me down to the tiny little detail may not necessarily work for you. But the underlying premise is the same. It's still eating habits, and in this case, it's still developing that schedule. First and foremost, those tip number one in time management and developing that schedule is that the adults need to get on a schedule that really works for them. An early night leads to an early morning. A late night leads to a late morning. So obviously you want to decide whether you want early morning, you're going to have an early night or with an early rise, or late night, forcing you to sleep in or get up later than usual. So the key to success, at least first one, as it relates to time management, is developing a schedule that works for your household. And it's not just for the mom and the dad, but it's the mom, the dad, the kids, and everyone involved. Because, of course, we know that the adults end up role modeling for their kids. So step number one underneath that time management is developing that schedule. The premise is that teenagers are actually hard to follow a schedule. And that's the myth, and that's a myth that is so very far from the truth. Teenagers, just like young kids, just like adults, will fall into a rhythm because their body will force them to follow a pattern. So that pattern comes back to developing that schedule. A schedule that works for me in my household is each of my kids are prone to go to bed early so that they can get up early. A time that I set is even as young as my oldest son, who's now 18 and in college, is that bedtime was 8 o'clock. You may not be sleepy, you may not be tired, but you were in the bed. In the bed, you could have been counting the cows jumping over the moon or whatever the case may be, but you were in the bed. So my kids are used to an early bedtime, and they get up in the morning, because for me, I believe that if I got to fight you to get up for education, we have a problem. So what time schedule works best for you that allows you to set that tone in your home? For me, it was 8 p.m. unless it's an exception. For example, if my kids are have a fall sport such as football or cheerleading that isn't over until 7:45, then on those exception nights, they ended up going to bed kind of like 8:30. So what works for you? Once you've set that schedule and you set that tone in your home, then it allows you to have more flexibility in how you manage your day, whether it's early in the morning and late at night. So before I get into that part, how do you get your family into a routine? Anything that you try for a small amount of time, such as 2 or 3 days, will begin to work for itself. For example, how did I get my kids on their schedule? I ended up having them to go to bed early one night, and I woke them up super early the next morning. And so by the time 5 and 6 o'clock came around, their body started falling into this rhythm. So what did we do again? I put them back in the bed early on the second day and woke them up really early the next morning. And then by the third day, their body was used to that evening routine of winding down come 6, 7 o'clock, and come 5:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning, they're up without an alarm clock. So that works for me because I'm an early riser, because I get up first thing in the morning. What works for you? What time of the day can you devise for your family to follow? What time of the day do you need your kids to be in bed? Are you early risers for an early start, or are you late risers for a late start? Now that you have that schedule pinned down for your family, now let's talk about how you integrate your routines into your work schedule, because now you have home taken care of. And of course, each time of the year, you're going to have to go back and readjust and see what's happening. This is not a one best approach to anything, but it is a start. And as long as you start something, it leads to success. So literally for me now, 18 years later with my son and the younger ones, they're still into this rhythm. To this day, my 7-year-old is asleep by 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 at the latest, unless we have football. So his body is still in that rhythm. And for those that fall asleep later than that and have to get up in the morning, they kind of pay for it. So what works for you? But now that you have your home settled and you've managing your time where so you're not feeling guilty with having to run out the door and negating, family activities or loved ones or spending time with your boo or your spouse or, that booty call, whatever works. Now, how do you spend time for you? Now you develop a time for you. If you are an early riser, which means you're going to bed late and you get up early, obviously you're not going to be doing your workouts at 10 and 11 o'clock at night. That just doesn't make sense. Because if you're not getting ample enough time, then your body is not going to perform at its peak. So what's going to work for you? So once you develop that schedule, what time of the evening or the day or the morning or the afternoon can you get in your actual workout? So earlier I talked about this schedule that my family used. We're early risers, or we go to sleep early and then we end up getting up early. For me, I took advantage of that early AM rise. While my kids were getting up 6:30, sometimes 5:30 if I'm running with them or working out, I took advantage because I'm up at the crack of dawn. I'm so used to working out 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning, or just getting up, meditating or praying or whatever. That was Tekemia's time. That was my time to cheat, to steal, to get time in to do what I want. So obviously the gym isn't open at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But there were 2 things that I could actually do. 3 actually, as it relates to the disciplines of triathlon. I could run on my treadmill or outside with a group. I could hop on my trainer and get at least an hour to an hour and a half training bike ride in. Or I could do strength and conditioning at home or go to a 24-hour gym. That was my way of ensuring that I got my workout in or some type of workout in without having to interrupt the data flow of my kids or their schedule or even work. So now what works for you? What will you do? How will you balance home, work, life, and triathlon? Or just home and work? So I encourage you to take these tips into consideration. If you are interested in hearing more about it, please reach out to us at IABT Triathletes at gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can hear more great, exciting tips as it relates to the exciting world of triathlons. And be sure to leave a comment at the bottom so we know what you think. This is Dr. Tekemia Dorsey. Chat with you later.